Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So this one is going to be against Runinja, and let's get to it. So d4, knight f6, and the move bishop g5. So this is the Trumpowski, and I wouldn't say it's too rare, but it's also not too common. So it's one of those things where people might be like, why did you move it there, right? Was it to just take that knight, or was it to develop the bishop? So it'll always be a mystery. But one good thing about bishop g5 is that if black plays the move e6 and tries to, do something like a typical Nimzo defense, bringing the bishop out this way, that's good, but I get to play e4 right away. I get to control the center, because if knight takes, the bishop takes the queen. So then we see why this bishop is okay on g5. Bishop e7, and I said, let's bring the bishop out. And after b6, I wanted to experiment, so I played e5. I said, okay, it looks right? Maybe I'll be able to bring something onto this diagonal. Maybe I'll be able to pressure the dark squares a little bit. So after knight d5, I said take, and here I considered whether I should go queen to g4 or not. And then I saw the move f5, and I was like, I'm going to pass it up, because if en passant, knight takes, I go back, the bishop comes to b7, and black is pretty happy, I think. So I decided to pass on this. So instead I played a very tricky move. And here I could have perfectly said, okay, I want to scare this knight away and play c4. I could have easily said, well, I just want to develop and play knight to e2 and prevent our friend from playing knight to f4. But I played bishop to e4. Tricky being that, well, it's hard to deal with this threat, right? So how do we deal with it? Well, knight c6 is one way to deal with it. But let's look at this move queen to b4. It's another interesting way to deal with it, because if pawn to c3, queen takes b2, and I'm going to have to move my knight there. And if I move my knight here, well, if queen takes d4, then c4, right? To go for that rook still. So instead, queen takes b2 happens, and if c4 happens again, well, knight to c3. That is the difference, right? We look in this position, and we look at c4, knight to c3 is not possible because of pawn takes. So there are good things to queen to b4. I would probably have to play knight d2, and if queen takes, I play knight to e2. And things might get interesting because I'm still threatening c4, and I probably have a lot of initiative after rook to b1 and just scaring away the queen. So who knows, right? But queen b4 was definitely an interesting try. But in the game, knight c6 happened. And after knight c6, I said, well, these two guys are in a line, so I need to kick one of them out. I'm going to play c4. And if you play queen b4 here, I'm going to bring my knight out. I should be okay. So queen to h4 happened. And I was shocked at this move. I didn't expect it. I didn't see it coming. But I knew that my bishop was under attack, and I immediately said, okay, if I take here, black is going to take here with a check and capture back. So I don't want to do that. So instead, I just protect the bishop, keep cool, And now knight to e3. And here I thought I blundered first because I was like, okay, well, if the queen moves, there is a fork. Turns out, thank the bishop for doing its job. So I was like, okay, after I saw that, I was like, oh, maybe this is a pretty good position for me. Queen to f3, right? At the same time, threaten taking on c6 twice. So for example, if knight to f5, bishop takes c6, and if you play knight takes d4, I'm going to take, you take, and I'm going to take the rook. So let me orchestrate it. Bam, 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 and bingo, right? So I can get the rook that way, or pawn takes, bam, bingo, and bam. So I can do it. But in this case, there are some tricky moves. You have to consider what happens after knight c2, because after knight c2, bishop takes and knight takes d4. And now I have to debate, if knight takes d4, queen takes, knight takes, what happens here, right? I think white is winning, but it's something we have to look at, right? Another move is queen takes d4 and going for this pawn and just picking up the pawns in replacement of that lost piece. So that could be an option, but we don't know, right? So at this moment, it's already very tricky. Our friend Runinja plays knight takes d4, and I'm like, okay, I gotta keep cool. Queen takes knight. Still have no knight check because my bishop can go back. So knight c6, and now I'm going to bring out my pieces, right? Because now it's time for development, and after castles, I decide it's time to attack, right? Because I'm up material, I have my forces coming to get lined up, and after d5, I play the nice en passant, queen takes, and keep pushing. Let me just keep pushing. And after the knight moves, I have c6, forking the bishop and the queen. So after h5, take, take, and here I was like, let's take, let's go knight to c4, bring the rook to c1, get the knight to b6, and just win the fun day. So after f6, this was a pretty good move in stopping knight to e5 from happening, right? Forking the two pieces. I had other things on my mind. Knight takes, pawn takes, and rook to c1. Pinning the bishop and the king. Queen to c7, and, well, the queen was lost, and the rook was lost, and checkmate came, and sorry. So, this was a tough game, right? It all started from this very weird looking opening, right? The Trompowsky, and then b6 happened. So what I would suggest here is maybe Bach should play d5, and go into a French, if you know what I mean. Queen takes, go with c5, knight c6, b6, bishop to a6, this sort of thing. This is what I would suggest if somebody wanted to play this setup for black. But after b6, I got e5. I got to put some tricks on here. Maybe to be more accurate, I should have played either c4 or knight d2 first to avoid this queen b4 weirdness. But I made it tricky. Queen h4 was tricky, but I did get a knight. I got my pieces out. I started attacking. And to be honest, I thought I played a really good game. It started at the moment after bishop to e4. After knight to c6, I thought after queen to h4 was definitely taking over the initiative. This knight to e3, it was scary, but harmless. So I got my things done, and that's what I needed to do to win this game, right? To be aggressive, to get space, and try to find my glory. So, yeah, I mean, to sum up this game, things just went wrong at the start, I guess. But that's okay. We're working on strategy, right? So it's important. All right, so let's go to the next game. And in the next game, I employ a very odd opening. I play d4, e6. I invite our friend Runinja to play e4, and maybe I'll get a French. But Runinja sticks to London, and I say, trade, will you? And first of all, you might be like, why are you trading like this, right? Don't you hate doubled pawns? Well, doubled pawns are not the end of the world. But if you trade all your pieces and get into an endgame, doubled pawns might be horrible. But this is the opening and not the endgame, so we're okay. We're okay, alright? So just for the people who love not having doubled pawns, I'm sorry. Luckily, our friend Runinja said bishop to g3. I said, bring it on. h5. I'm going to play h4. I'm going to force our friend Runinja to trade. e4, h4. And now I play the setup that I would never play in a tournament game. Never. h4, bishop takes, pawn takes, and knight c3. So obviously this position is horrible, you know? But that's okay. Queen b6, knight f3, and now I need to bring out my pieces, right? My pawn structure, it's not so great, right? My bishop is terrible. It's locked in, and I think what I should have done is I should have tried to play some a6, b6 and bring this bishop out at least. I wasn't so responsible in noting that my bishop was really sad on c8, but I discovered it later on, so you'll see how my thought process works. So I'm bringing my knight out. I'm bringing my knight out to support the h4 pawn and maybe go for something on f4. After e5, which is interesting. I'm not sure if e5 is the best, but I remember playing this move instantly. I played d5, and I regretted it because I don't know. I don't know why I played d5, but had to do with thinking about, okay, well, my next pawn is going to get to d6 and we're going to free you. Because I was thinking, well, if take, I'm not going to play d6. Things are not going to go well, so. But I failed to take into account that I have this move knight to c6. Yes, even masters do forget things, so that is okay. I played d5 thinking, I'm going to get d6 in next move, but our friend Runinja played the move knight to b5, and I was toast. Right? I was not doing great at this point. I was like, no, why? Right? So I played knight c6, saying, okay, sure, take this square, but I might look at these two guys and say, I'm going to try to break you here. Knight d6, king e7, queen to d2, and now f6. So I've created this sort of home around my king, and I like it for now. Right? I'm attacking this central pawn, and I'm finding my way through. After knight b5, I said, okay, well, that's interesting. You're getting out of here, but I want you to get back in here. And I'll tell you why in the next video. So, I'll see you soon.